This episode is sponsored by The Break Room, downtown's best spot for a hot lunch every business day.
On this episode, Cruisin the Capital Car Show, events at Great Overland Station, Bear at Topeka Civic Theater, and The Villages.
Joining me here in the Talk About Topeka studios, Miss Edie Smith from Downtown Topeka Incorporated. We're talking about two incredible events that are happening very soon here in Downtown Topeka. Edie, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Doing wonderful. Okay, so if you like cars and beer, downtown's the place for you.
That's a great place to hang out for cars and beer.
Now, more specifically, we have the Cruisin the Capital Car Show. That's coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
We're in our third year for Cruisin the Capital, and last year we actually moved it to where it was around the Capitol instead of on the Avenue. So I think we really like that inventory of space, so we're going to continue there. It is August 1st. So we're really excited. It's an open car show, so all makes and models of cars, all years, whether it's a cycle, a truck, a car, a rat rod, bring it down. We also kind of encourage this to be a family event, so grandpa, dad, and son can all bring whatever car they have and partner up as a family. So it should be kind of fun.
Excellent, and to check out some of the businesses in downtown as well at the same time. It's going to be a great treat for the Cruisin the Capital Car Show. Do people come to with ideas and say we want to do this, then you kind of help facilitate, or how does this work?
Both. We have, like the Bridge to Bridge run is one that we designed. The Tower run is one that we designed. There are events that people come to us and say, we'd like to hold it, would you help us facilitate doing that? So because we know all the permit processes and have kind of that crazy brain that thinks through all the details.
And you know how many porta potties you need.
How many porta potties, barricades, So just, the logistics that go behind an event, people use us as a resource as well to hold an event in the downtown area, which we'd love to be able to do that. We like holding events, but we like when other people hold them as well.
And if you're down here today, you see a lot of dust, but think about how cool it's going to be when this is all finished. If you have those events in mind that you'd like to have in downtown, you should contact Edie over here at Downtown Topeka, or again, check out the website, downtowntopekainc.com. We'll get it in there, so check it out. And we'd love to have you in downtown. Love to see you down here for some amazing events, especially for Tap That and Cruisin the Capital. That's Edie Smith with Downtown Topeka. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm joined here in the studio by Sarah House from the Great Overland Station, and a lot of fantastic things are happening. You had a big kickoff event there, Sarah, to kick off a big, it's in your gallery, a big display. Is that what we call this?
We did. Yeah. It's our hottest new exhibit.
Literally hottest.
Hottest new exhibit. Yes, we're so excited to announce that we kicked off last night with a sneak preview of Emerging from the Ashes. And that is the exhibit about historic fires of Topeka. And inside the exhibit we have a lot of artifacts and pictures from so many wonderful contributors and donors. We've got things from Grace Cathedral Fire, First United Methodist, the Downtown Fire. We've got photo timelines all the way back to the very first fire that took place in Topeka, which ended up being a very interesting intro story to the kickoff last night. The city of Topeka was founded in 1854, and when the founding fathers that night went back to their cabin, the prairie grass caught on fire and lit their cabin on fire the very same night. So Topeka was kind of birthed in fire, and we have been going strong ever since. We've got a great fire department, and we've got items in there to recognize the history of the fire department personnel and trucks as well. We had some of the fire department antique trucks on display out front last evening.
Cool.
And we were very privileged to have Battalion Chief Todd Williams from Topeka Fire Department come out and give a few words and meet and mingle with our guests, along with several of the Topeka Fire Department retired personnel. And we actually had several people from across the state that were coming, passing through, and were invited in to visit with our members and guests.
That's awesome. And you had, let's talk about a little bit of that food, because I understand you had some of my friends over there from downtown.
Yes, we decided decided it was going to be very advantageous for both our exhibit being titled about fire as well as the history with the downtown fire this last January. So we had HHB Barbecue bring in some appetizers. Hazel Hill brought in an entire array of desserts. Top City Soda Pop came in and did a soda bar fountain. And it was really wonderful for those businesses to be able to get out in front of the public, let them know, hey, we're still here, we're thriving. And our guests really enjoyed that, and we appreciated their sponsorship as well.
And of course, they were all somewhat affected by that fire, so it's great to be able to pull them back together. And they've all emerged from the ashes like several phoenix living right next door to each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that entire exhibit was made possible by Jayhawk Fire Sprinkler. They were a huge contributor to, most people don't realize during an exhibit how much financially it costs to bring an exhibit in, from trying to get everything matted and printed, and it gets very costly. So as a nonprofit, we were very appreciative of Jayhawk Fire Sprinkler coming in.
Absolutely.
And it's funny that you should bring up the emerging from the ashes with the Phoenix concept, because this exhibit actually kicked off a series of events that are coming up here at the station, one of which is our Gala, which is going to take place on June 19th. It's a Friday night, and it's our annual fundraiser.
Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice, that's right. And on the invitation itself, it's got this giant phoenix. It's absolutely beautiful. It's going to be a very fun event. Tickets are still available. We have wonderful sponsors for our silent and live auction. We've got the Rusty Rearson and the Forever Young Band coming back again this year. We had so many people last year comment about it and ask if they could please come back. They loved it. They danced right up till the very end, and so we're looking forward to having them back. And we've got a new catering company that's going to be doing the catering that night. It's Paisha's by the Pound.
Great.
And it's going to be some wonderful food, lots of music, fun atmosphere.
That's June 19th, so people need to get that on the calendar. The Fire and Ice Gala happening at the Great Overland Station. Continuing this theme, I want to get in there. First of all, people can visit this exhibit through September 26th, so you have a little time in there, but you have some great opportunities to get to the station to celebrate some other events as well in that time period. The other thing, the annual event, the Railroad Festival, it just keeps getting bigger and better every single year.
And this year is not going to fail. It is absolutely turning into this huge event every year. We've got new vendors that are coming in. We've got new exhibitors, new entertainers. Our children's section has doubled, but the greatest part about the festival is that there's something for absolutely every age group. The entire point behind the Railroad Festival is to just continue to bring out the message and the mission of the rail history in Topeka and let everybody know the importance behind it and how it's still active today. So we've got railroad models and displays that are coming up. They've got
vendors and things for the kids and just you name it.
And food. I do love food. We've got some great food vendors that are coming out. And so the entire station, inside and out, just completely transforms into the most wonderful festival atmosphere.
It's such a wonderful place to celebrate the rich heritage that we have with the railroad here in Topeka. It's over at the Great Overland Station right in North Topeka. There's a little fly-off ramp there on the, if you really want the whole train experience, you might catch one if you go around through the Noto side, and you can sit there and leisurely enjoy the train as you wait to cross.
Absolutely.
Or if you don't have the patience for it, there's a little fly-off ramp there off of the Kansas Avenue Bridge.
Absolutely. And we have so many folks that come and actually just park in our parking lot or go off to the side of our building because we've got the fencing back there, and it's beautiful fencing because we've got trains that come through the back quite frequently, and they just sit and watch and enjoy the train, and the kids play outside at the park, and a lot of folks spend time out at our All Veterans Memorial, which is directly in front of the Great Overland Station, and it's got the 50 flag corridor with all of the American flags and each state's flag.
It's a breathtaking sight to see.
It is beautiful. We just replaced all of the lights, so it's incredibly gorgeous at night. You can drive by and check it out.
Yeah, that's what you got to do, folks. Right there in North Topeka, it's the Great Overland Station. The Sarah House telling us that you need to be out there
Absolutely.
to experience the Emerging from the Ashes exhibit going through September 28th. Check out those Harvey House luncheons September 17th, December 3rd, the Fire and Ice Gala June 19th, and the Railroad Festival on August 15th. Get all that in your calendar. If you missed it, well, go to talkabouttopeka.com, find the podcast, and then you can rewind this as many times as you like. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really do appreciate you coming. Joining me here in the studio is Ryan McCoy with Topeka Civic Theater, and you're directing a show called Bear over there. It's a newer show, a little bit edgier kind of show. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. First of all, tell us a little bit about this show. Give us the elevator speech.
Okay, I've been telling people it's the modern day Romeo and Juliet story. The playwrights have used that device within the show because it's set in a private boarding school, and the students that are in the show are actually in the process of performing Romeo and Juliet, and it's a musical version of Romeo and Juliet, and there's all these parallels between Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet and the story that is actually taking place. The main difference is that instead of having Romeo and Juliet, you have Jason and Peter as your two that are the star-crossed lovers in this case. And instead of the families directly being the cause of them having difficulties making that relationship work, you've got other students, you've got parents, you've got other social structures that are making it difficult for these two men to step forward together.
It's very timely. When was it produced, or when was it first?
I believe the show's about a decade old.
Okay.
And it's been reworked a couple different times. Most recently, they took the pop opera, which is what we're doing, the original, and they turned it into a musical. And one of the choreographers from So You Think You Can Dance was working on it, and they restaged it off Broadway.
Cool.
And it had more scenes in it. But this is the pop opera, the original, much more music, and there's kind of a cult following for this show, and this is the one they fell in love with, and so this is the one we are lucky to be able to do.
So you're doing the right version.
We are doing the correct version.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the cast here. You have a great cast in this thing. It's a pretty good sized cast. It's in the Old Father Theater, so it's not on the main stage. It's kind of the side theater there, and you've got a lot of people in this thing.
We do. We have 19, and my full-time job is at Topeka West High School as a teacher, theater teacher there, and it's really neat because coming over here to guest direct Bear, we basically had people that love musical theater from the entire area that's about this age come in and audition for it. So, for example, I've got 2 students from Topeka West that are in the show that are leads at my place, and they're in the ensemble here. And then we've got some mainstays of Topeka Civic Theater. We have 3 adult characters, Robin Bonsall, Andrew Huff, who just recently played the lead male in Mary Poppins. Yeah, chimney sweep guy. I just totally lost his character name. And then Ashley Young, who was playing Mary Poppins. And so we've got some mainstays from the main stage, and then we've got all of these high school and college age students that have fallen in love with the show that have come in. So it's kind of an all-star cast in the Old Father studio space.
What do you think, doing a show that's edgier, what do you think it's like, going from the high school theater to the studio theater? What's that gear change like?
In all actuality, we are lucky at Topeka West because we have a little bit more leeway, and Doug Goheen was my predecessor and my mentor, and he was able to open the doors for some shows that most high schools don't do. So in a lot of ways, there hasn't been a huge step. Students at the high school age are willing to go to these places because they live this. The story that Bear takes on is something that you see in the schools. You see the bullying issues, you see relationship issues, you see the stresses that these high school kids are under, and you see the stresses that their parents are under as well, and that all takes place in the show. So in a lot of ways, it was kind of this perfect storm that occurred. We started the rehearsal process right as I was finishing off the spring show. So basically, I didn't have to switch gears. I just went to the next show. And it takes place in a high school. It's dealing with high school issues, which is stuff that I deal with every day. And like you said, it's a timely It's a timely piece. It's something that the kids are passionate about, and if you give actors and students, if you give them something that they're interested in, something they're passionate about, something that they know, they do a great job with it. And so it really hasn't been that much of a step, which is pretty cool. And Highland Park High School and Scott Kiekefer and other colleagues of mine around, we do some of this stuff. It's just we're not doing Oklahoma every year, so that's really nice. And it's really nice for Topeka Civic Theater and Academy to have this studio space to be able to say, okay, you know, we can do these things in addition to the Mary Poppins and the Wizard of Oz, because we have an audience that's willing to accept it, and we have an audience that's willing to take some chances, and willing to do relevant theater, which is something that I believe is important not only in the community theater, but also in the high school theater.
Well, you can find out all about it at Topeka Civic Theater. Again, get those tickets at topekacivictheater.com. You can call their box office. Bear, a pop opera, is June 12th through the 28th. Happening in the Old Father Theater. It's really a spectacular show, and I hope you'll get out and broaden your horizons a little bit.
Very much so.
I guess that's the way to put it, right?
Yeah.
And thank you, Ryan McCoy, director of the show here, for joining us and telling us all about it. We hope you'll get out and check it out. Joining me here in the studio is Sylvia Crawford. She's the executive director of The Villages. How are you, Sylvia?
I'm great. Thanks.
Wonderful. Glad to have you here. Now, The Villages, I'd heard of The Villages before, but I wasn't really quite sure what you did. Now, we ran into you guys over at Topeka Gives for the Topeka Community Foundation out at Fairlawn Plaza, and I wanted to talk to you guys to find out a little bit about your organization and tell our viewers and listeners here a little bit about it. So give us the elevator speech about The Villages.
Okay. The Villages has been around since 1964, and we were originally started by Dr. Carl Menninger. And the purpose of The Villages was to provide a place for youth that, for whatever reason, couldn't live with their own families at that time. And we kind of have evolved over the years, and now what we do is we provide care for youth that are in the custody of the Department of Corrections, and so they're all juvenile offenders and have done something to break the law and have been placed in an out-of-home placement by a juvenile judge.
A lot of people that perhaps others would look away as throwaway people. You can't have throwaway people. You know,
Correct.
these are children, minors who need a little something in their life. Perhaps they got into a situation because they didn't really have the nurturing that was offered to other children. So how do you approach that? How do you deal with a youth who's had all these problems, and how do you start to unravel that and get down to the point so that they can maybe have a chance?
Well, you know, we look at them as a kid, first of all. You know, we know that they are juvenile offenders, but they're kids. And what we find is that most of our youth come from situations where they made some very bad choices. And what we hope to do while they're with us is to help them process the choices that they made, what the consequences of those choices were, and what other options they could have considered, and what the outcome, how it may have been different. A lot of them have drug and alcohol issues, so we make sure that they get into treatment for that. A lot of our youth have mental health needs, and so we make sure that services are put in place to address those. A lot of our kids are way behind in school by the time they come to us. They either didn't attend school, or they've moved around so much that they were never, you know,
roots.
Right, in anywhere long enough to actually get credits. So we work very hard with them on having some success in school. So we kind of do an overall assessment when a kid first comes to us, and try to, you know, sort out what their needs are, what services need to be put in place. And then we we work with them and help them sort out where to go from here.
What are typically maybe some of the issues you'd be dealing with on a common basis there that these kids have gotten themselves into?
Well, the kids that we work with, the offenses they've committed, there's really quite a range. Again, first of all, they're kids, and what we find out is they don't necessarily think things through very well.
A lot of adults that don't do that.
And so a lot of stuff that they get themselves into was very impulsive. It seemed like a good idea at the time. They may not really have an understanding of the ramifications of their decisions. And for some of our kids, they have had role models that, this is what they grew up with. And for them, it's been kind of a normal part of life, and this is what you do. And they've seen, other people around them do similar kind of things. And to them, that was kind of, this is what you do.
This is normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, you need volunteers. And what kind of volunteers do you need? What are they going to be doing, and how can people get involved with that if they're interested?
Okay. Well, what kind of volunteers we need, there's really a real wide array. To give you some examples, we've had groups of volunteers come out to do work on the property, anywhere from clearing trails to doing some work on the ropes course to cutting down trees, cutting firewood, any of that outdoor kind of activity. We've had groups of volunteers come out to help us paint. We have 5 homes, and as you can imagine, when you house 10 adolescents in a house, it needs to be painted pretty regularly. So we're always looking for volunteers to help us keep the houses looking nice, and there's always painting to be done. We've had volunteers come out that had particular skills that they were willing to share with our kids. And that could be anything from how you fix a flat tire on your bicycle to playing guitar to fishing. So anybody that has a particular hobby, interest that they're willing to share with some of our kids, they love stuff like that.
And as a volunteer opportunity to be able to take something that you truly love to do and share it with somebody else, there's no better way of doing it, is there? I mean, so there are plenty of opportunities to do that with the villages. And how do those folks perhaps get in touch with you if they contact you, or there's a better way?
Just
Website,
get in touch with the villages. You can either email us. You can go to our website. There's emails listed for all staff.
What's your website?
Our website is www.thevillagesinc.org.
Okay, it's simple enough to remember there. www.thevillagesinc.org. Check it out. You can find out about the opportunities for volunteers. You can find out about the ropes course. You can find out about what their programming is. And you can find out all about the villages. I really do appreciate you coming by here and talking with us today. It's really an interesting organization, and you fulfill a very specific niche need, and I'm glad we could all find out a little bit more about an organization that helps some kids that really need that help. It really is nice.
Thanks for inviting me. It was my pleasure.